Hi there. Let's start off by finding the distance between the points -1, 5 and 2, 9. My way to find distance is what I call subtractum, squarum, addum, raddum. So I start with the points stacked up, and I'm going to subtract them. So -1 minus 2 makes -3, 5 minus 9 makes -4. Square them, so I'm going to square both of them. That gives me 9 and 16. I add them to get 25, and then I rad them to get 5. The distance between -1, 5 and 2, 9 is 5. Now you also might like to use the distance formula, which is distance equals big square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. And when you plug these points in properly, you will also obviously get 5. It's important to know the distance formula. It comes up often enough that it's good to have in your bank of information in your head. We've derived the distance formula previously, so you can always derive it if you forget it. Or, again, if you can remember subtractum, squarum, addum, raddum, then you can get the distance formula from there. If I have 2 points, let's say we have xy, and again, another point xy, we'll call the first point point 2, and the second point point 1. And then if I subtract them, I would get x sub 2 minus x sub 1. I'd get y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Then I'd square them. Then I add them. And I rad them. And I have the distance formula built from subtractum, squarum, addum, raddum. So now let's say we have a circle. And that circle is centered on an axis. We're going to give this circle a center called h. K, those are the traditional letters to represent the center of a circle, and we're going to pick some point anywhere else on the circle. I'm going to put my point right here, and I'm going to call this point xy. This circle has a radius right there. I'm going to call it r, and I'm wondering how big the radius is. Well, the radius is just as big as the distance between hk and xy, so I'm going to find that distance. So I'm going to start with the distance formula. Distance equals big square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. So I have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, and that distance is the radius. Now all of this good, interesting math is trapped under that radical, and I can't take the square root of each of those terms because of the plus sign in there. So what I decide to do is square both sides to make things a little more versatile. And so I have r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. This equation is often called radius center form of a circle, or sometimes they'll switch it around and call it center radius form of a circle, and a lot of publishers call this standard form of a circle. When working with radius center form of a circle, there are 2 very important things to realize. First, the center is positive h, positive k, but the equation shows negative h, negative k. If we keep that negative there with the h and the k, you see the opposite of what you have as the actual center. So the equation is always going to show the opposite of the center. Whatever's paired with x will be your x variable. Whatever's paired with y will be your y variable. Secondly, it's important to notice that everything's squared. We're dealing with circles, but everything's squared. So now, take a look at this equation here. We have 9 equals x minus 3 squared plus y plus 7 squared. And I want to know what the radius and the center for this equation are. Starting with the center, I see a -3 and a positive 7, so my center is going to be positive 3. And a -7. My center is the opposite, opposite, and whatever's paired with x is the x term, whatever's paired with y is the y term. Then remember that this number is the radius squared. So to find the radius, I have to take the square root of that number, and I find that the radius is 3. Let's try another. Find the center and radius of this equation. My center is the opposite, opposite. Whatever's paired with x is the x, whatever's paired with y is the y, and my radius is the square root of the number that I see. My radius is the square root of 17. Try this one. This one may be a tiny bit trickier. It's maybe a little trickier, but it's not a whole lot more difficult. To find the center, I'm looking for the opposite, opposite, but remember whatever's paired with x is the x term. Whatever's paired with y will be the y term. But what's sitting here with the y? What is there if there's nothing there? there's 0 there. My center is 4, 0. Then my radius is going to be the square root of the number. It's the square root of 18, which simplifies to 3 rad 2. Now try this one. The center is 0, 0. The radius is 1. And we know that a circle with a center of 0, 0 and a radius of 1 is the unit circle. So we have found the equation of the unit circle. This equation actually leads us to a new quick sketch for which the center of the circle will always be 0, 0 and the radius will be the square root of the number. For example, quick sketch, x squared plus y squared equals 9. My center is going to be 0, 0 and my radius will be 3. And I can label it just like that with the radius showing 3. If I say quick sketch, x squared plus y squared equals 10, my center will be 0, 0 and my radius will be rad 10. They're definitely not drawn picture perfect, but the center of 0, 0 and the radius being the correct length is there and labeled in each sketch. Now try this. Write the equation for the circle with center 4, -3 and radius of 5. Again, when dealing with circles, we actually have everything be squared. It's something squared plus something squared equals something squared. And in one of these squares we have x, and in one we have y. Now to go along with the x and the y, we use the opposite, so it'll be -4, +3. And then right here goes the radius. We have 5 squared. Cleaning it up a little bit, we get x minus 4 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 25. Now for our last problem, try this. Let's sketch the circle given by x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 4. We can look at it and see that the center is +1, -2, opposite, and the radius is 2. It's the square root of the number that you see. So now I'm going to sketch my center at 1, -2, and I'm going to label it 1, -2. Then my radius is 2, so I'm going to go 2 up, 2 over, 2 down, and 2 over. I'm going to do my best to make this look circular. And it's not going to be perfect, but it's pretty darn close. And then I'm going to show that, look, no matter how perfect or imperfect it is, I mean for the radius to be 2. Now from you guys, what I'm expecting is that you hit the targets. Here's what I mean. If you're supposed to touch the x-axis, you should touch the x-axis. If you're supposed to cross the x-axis or the y-axis, then you should cross the x or y-axis. So you should hit the targets of the approximate size of the circle, and then if it looks kind of like an egg or if it looks like a diamond or something, do your best to make it look round. And that's it for circles for today.